like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something pretty wild. Elon Musk's net worth just passed $400 billion.
Wow, 400 billion with a B. This is actually the first time anyone in recorded history has hit this financial milestone. And we're going to be using a recent Forbes article to help us unpack how this happened, what factors are driving Musk's wealth, and what this all means in the grand scheme of things.
It's insane. Like you said, this isn't just about one successful company either. This really represents several of his ventures, all hitting major milestones at the same time.
Right, and speaking of those ventures, the Forbes article really highlighted SpaceX's recent share buyback deal. This valued the company at a crazy $350 billion. Can you quickly explain to our listeners what a share buyback is?
Sure thing. A share buyback is basically when a company repurchases its own shares from existing investors. It's a way for a company to invest in itself, and it can also signal confidence in the company's future. It's also a key way to determine a company's value, especially when it's privately held like SpaceX. Okay, that makes sense. So even though we can't just look up SpaceX's stock price, this buyback gives us a good idea of what investors think it's worth.
Exactly. And clearly they're willing to put an enormous price tag on it.
Absolutely enormous.
This valuation actually makes SpaceX the most valuable private company in the entire world. It surpasses giants like TikTok's parent company ByteDance and even OpenAI.
Wow. I mean, a space exploration company more valuable than those digital giants. So why are investors so bullish on SpaceX? It can't just be the coolest factor of space travel, right? What's driving this confidence?
Well, there are a few things at play. First, SpaceX has been consistently hitting its technological milestones. They've developed reusable rockets, which dramatically reduce the cost of spaceflight. And they've secured lucrative contracts with NASA and other commercial clients.
Well, it's not just about the vision. They're actually delivering on their promises.
Exactly. And second, there's a growing belief that space is the next frontier for commercial activity. We're talking about satellite internet constellations, space tourism, even asteroid mining in the future. SpaceX is seen as a leader in this emerging market, which is why investors are so eager to get a piece of the pie.
It's like the early days of the internet, where everyone knew it was going to be huge, but no one knew exactly how.
That's a great analogy. And there's one more interesting tidbit from the Forbes article. Even at that $350 billion valuation, investors were hesitant to sell their SpaceX shares. Musk even mentioned this on X.
So investors see this as a long-term play. They're holding on to their SpaceX stock because they believe it's going to be worth even more in the future.
Precisely. And this brings us to a crucial point about Musk's overall wealth strategy. SpaceX is just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
Right. We can't forget about his other ventures. Let's remind everyone what else is in Musk's portfolio.
Of course. Besides his estimated 75% stake in X, formerly known as Twitter, there's Tesla. He holds a 13% stake, which is worth nearly $170 billion, not including options. And then there's xAI, his AI startup, where he has an estimated 54% stake. That's currently valued at $50 billion.
So he really isn't putting all his eggs in one basket. How does this diversification factor into his overall wealth picture?
Diversification is key for any investor, even someone with Musk's resources. By spreading his investments across different sectors, electric vehicles, space exploration, artificial intelligence, he's essentially hedging his bets. If one market takes a hit, his other holdings can potentially cushion the blow.
So while some people were trying to time the market or bet on the next big thing, Musk is building a portfolio that can weather different economic storms.
Absolutely. Diversification is a fundamental principle of smart investing. It helps to manage risk and promote long-term growth.
Speaking of Tesla, we can't ignore the recent surge in its stock price. It's up over 70% since the November 5th election. Some are connecting this to Musk's close relationship with President-elect Trump.
It's true that Musk and President-elect Trump have a history. Musk publicly supported him. And there's speculation that this relationship could translate into favorable policies for Tesla, like tax breaks or subsidies for electric vehicles.
And we can't forget about the talk of the new DOGE department, the Department of Government Efficiency, that President-elect Trump wants to create. Musk is supposedly going to co-head it, advising on ways to cut federal spending. Could this give him even more influence over regulations that might benefit his companies?
It's certainly possible. Musk being involved in government at this level is unprecedented for a business leader of his stature. It'll be interesting to see how this dynamic plays out and what impact it has on his companies.
Definitely adds another layer of complexity to this whole story. But hold on. We need to touch on something else the Forbes article mentioned. The legal situation around his Tesla stock options. This sounds like it could have a big impact on his net worth, right?
Yes, that's right. A Delaware judge recently voided a 2018 options deal. That would have given Musk the right to buy an additional 9% of Tesla stock. At the time, those options were estimated to be worth around $56 billion.
Wow. For our listeners who might not be familiar with stock options, can you quickly break down what those are and why this deal got voided?
Sure. In simple terms, a stock option gives someone the right, but not the obligation, to buy company shares at a specific price in the future. So if the stock price goes up, the option holder can buy shares at that lower predetermined price and then immediately sell them at the higher market price, making a profit.
Okay, so Musk had the option to buy a ton more Tesla stock at a set price, but a judge said nope.
Right. The judge ruled that the original deal wasn't fair to Tesla shareholders. There were concerns about whether it actually benefited the company and its investors.
That's a big blow, even for someone as wealthy as Elon Musk.
It is, but it's not over yet. The Tesla shareholders actually voted to reapprove the options package, and Musk is appealing the judge's decision. So it's a situation that's still very much in flux.
So we've got SpaceX, Tesla.xAI, and X, all contributing to Musk's record-breaking net worth. But how does this compare to other mega-wealthy individuals? Where does he stand in the global wealth ranking?
Right now, Musk is at the very top. He surpassed Jeff Bezos by a significant margin, about $180 billion.
So he's not just the richest person in the world, he's the richest by a landslide. But the Forbes article also mentioned that this top spot has been a bit of a revolving door in recent years, with Musk, Bezos, and even Bernard Arnault all taking turns at the #1 spot.
It's true. Global wealth rankings can fluctuate based on stock market performance, company valuations, currency exchange rates, and a host of other factors. So while Musk is sitting pretty right now, there's no guarantee he'll hold on to that top spot forever.
It's like a high-stakes game of financial musical chairs. But for now, Elon Musk is firmly planted in the winner's seat. So we've covered a lot of ground already. SpaceX, Tesla, diversification, political connections, stock options, and global wealth rankings. What are your key takeaways so far?
I think the biggest takeaway is that Musk's $400 billion milestone isn't just about one lucky break or a single successful company. It's the result of a carefully crafted strategy. That involves innovation, diversification, and a willingness to take calculated risks.
It's a reminder that building wealth, even on this massive scale, is about more than just hitting the jackpot. It's about long-term vision, strategic planning, and of course, a bit of luck along the way. But now that we've established how Musk got here, the big question is, so what? What does this level of wealth concentration mean for the rest of us? That's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive, so stay tuned.
So as promised, we're now diving into the so what of Elon Musk's $400 billion net worth. What does this level of wealth concentration actually mean, not just for him, but for everyone else?
Yeah, it really is the elephant in the room. You've got this brilliant innovator pushing the boundaries of technology with things like electric cars, space travel, artificial intelligence. It's hard not to be impressed by the sheer scale of his ambition.
It's true. And the potential benefits of those advancements are huge. Take Tesla, for example. They played a major role in accelerating the shift to electric vehicles, pushing the entire auto industry towards a more sustainable future.
I totally agree. I mean, even beyond the environmental benefits, electric cars are just cool. But then you have this other side of the coin, this ever-widening wealth gap. We're talking about one person having more wealth than some entire countries. It's almost unfathomable.
It's a valid point. And it's understandable to feel uneasy about such concentrated wealth. Historically, when this much financial power is in the hands of so few, it raises concerns about power imbalances, influence over governments, and even the potential to distort markets.
It's like that old saying, money talks. And with that much money, it's practically shouting from the rooftops. It gives you influence that most people can't even imagine.
Right. And it raises an important question. How is someone like Musk wielding that influence? Is it being used for the benefit of society or primarily to serve his own interests and ambitions? It's a question that people are asking, and it's a complex one to answer.
Yeah, because it's not a black and white situation. Musk has been vocal about wanting to tackle big global challenges like climate change. He's put serious money into companies like Tesla and SolarCity that are working towards those goals. You could argue that, in a way, he's putting his money where his mouth is.
That's true. But there are critics who say those ventures are just a savvy way to increase his wealth and power under the guise of altruism. It's a tough call to make. And it really comes down to what you believe Musk's motivations are.
Is he a visionary philanthropist, a shrewd businessman, or maybe a combination of both? I'm not sure anyone knows for sure, including Musk himself. But intentions aside, there's no doubt that his decisions have a ripple effect far beyond his own companies.
Absolutely. His actions create waves that impact the economy, the stock market, even the political landscape. Take his acquisition of Twitter, for example, now X. That move sent shockwaves through the tech world and sparked a huge debate about the future of social media.
Right. There are people who think he's a free speech hero, and others who are really concerned about the potential for misinformation and abuse on the platform. It's like we're watching a real-time experiment on the power of social media and the influence one individual can have.
And that's just one example. As his companies continue to grow and innovate, they'll inevitably affect even more aspects of our lives.
Right.
From transportation and energy to communication and artificial intelligence.
It's both exciting and kind of scary at the same time. It's like we're strapped into this roller coaster, hurtling toward a future that's being shaped, at least in part, by the decisions of this one incredibly wealthy and influential person.
That's a powerful way to put it. And it underscores why it's so crucial that as a society, we continue having conversations like this. We need to examine the implications of this level of wealth concentration and how much influence it yields. What kind of future do we want? And what role will individuals like Elon Musk play in shaping it? Those are questions we can't ignore.
Okay, but let's shift gears a bit here. We've talked about the potential risks of concentrated wealth, but what about the potential rewards? Is it possible that someone like Musk, with his enormous resources, could actually solve problems that governments and traditional institutions have struggled with for decades?
That's a really intriguing question. We often focus on the negatives of wealth and equality. But what if there's a flip side? Could someone like Musk leverage his wealth to do good on a massive scale?
He's already achieved things that seemed impossible just a few years ago, like making electric cars mainstream and landing rockets back on Earth. Could he do something similar in other areas? Renewable energy, affordable housing, curing diseases. The possibilities are endless.
That's the optimistic view. And with that level of financial firepower, there's no denying that he could fund research, back groundbreaking startups, and bring new technologies to the world much faster than anyone else.
It's almost like having a real-life Tony Stark, minus the superhero suit, using his wealth and intellect to fix global problems.
That's a fun comparison. But it also highlights a key point. Accountability and transparency are absolutely crucial. When someone holds that much power, Musk's decisions have far-reaching consequences, and it's essential that those decisions are made responsibly and ethically.
It comes back to the idea that with great power comes great responsibility, and it's our job as citizens to hold powerful figures accountable, to ask tough questions, and to demand transparency.
Exactly. It's about finding that delicate balance between encouraging innovation and ensuring that it benefits society as a whole, not just a select few. This isn't about vilifying success or wealth. It's about recognizing that those things come with a responsibility to use them wisely.
Well said. But before we get too philosophical, let's bring it back to Musk and his $400 billion milestone. The Forbes article suggested that if his wealth keeps growing at this rate, he could become the world's first trillionaire by the end of the decade.
It's a truly mind-boggling thought, isn't it? But instead of getting caught up in the sheer size of that number, let's think about what it means for the bigger picture. What kind of world will we be living in if that happens?
What will it mean for the balance of power, the distribution of resources, and the very structure of our society? These are questions we should all be thinking about, not just economists and politicians.
You're absolutely right. The future isn't predetermined. It's shaped by the choices we make today. And that brings us to the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore those choices and what they could mean for the world of tomorrow.
All right, so we're back, and we've been talking about how Elon Musk reached this insane $400 billion net worth, how he got there, and what it all means. But now I think it's time to look ahead and ask, what's next?
I think so too. We've talked about the how and the why, but now let's try to look into the future. What does this milestone tell us about where we might be headed?
Yeah, like, is this just the beginning? Are we going to see a world where trillionaires become the norm?
Well, it's definitely possible if current trends continue. Rapid growth of tech companies, the concentration of wealth, the rise of new industries like space tourism and AI. It's not hard to imagine more people reaching those levels of wealth.
A world with trillionaires. It's hard to even wrap your head around it. It challenges our whole understanding of wealth and economic power.
Yeah, it does. And it raises some pretty fundamental questions. How do we distribute resources fairly? What's the role of government in all of this? What does capitalism even look like in the 21st century with this kind of wealth disparity?
It feels like we're entering uncharted territory.
Yeah, no roadmap for this one.
One thing I keep thinking about is the impact on innovation. We talked about how Musk has used his wealth to drive technological advancements. But could this level of wealth concentration actually be a bad thing? Could it hinder competition and limit opportunities for others?
That's a real concern. When one person or a small group of companies hold so much power and influence, it creates massive barriers to entry for smaller startups and entrepreneurs. Imagine trying to compete with someone who has almost unlimited resources.
Yeah, no thanks. And if there's no real competition, does that actually stifle innovation in the long run?
That's one side of the argument for sure. But some people also argue that Musk's success could actually inspire others, to dream big and pursue their own ambitious ventures. His story shows what can be achieved with bold thinking and a willingness to take risks.
I can see that. He's become a bit of a cultural icon, a symbol of what human ingenuity can achieve.
Right. It's really about finding the right balance. We want to encourage innovation and entrepreneurship, but we also need to be mindful of economic inequality and the concentration of power.
Which brings us back to the role of government. What can governments do to ensure that the benefits of this new era of wealth creation are shared more equally? Do our current policies even work in a world with this level of wealth disparity?
It's a tough question, and it demands a multifaceted approach. Some people argue for stronger regulations on monopolies and antitrust measures to prevent companies from becoming too dominant. Others support progressive taxation to redistribute wealth more fairly.
And there's the growing movement for a universal basic income, the idea that everyone gets a guaranteed minimum income no matter what. Could that help lessen the negative impacts of automation and job losses as technology advances?
These are all ideas worth exploring. There's no easy solution. But we need to acknowledge these challenges and have open conversations about how to address them.
And that's what we've tried to do in this deep dive, get people thinking and asking questions.
Exactly. Because the future is not predetermined. We create it through the choices we make.
Remember that Forbes article we've been talking about? It suggested that if Musk's wealth keeps growing like it is now, he could be the world's first trillionaire by the end of the decade.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild thought.
But it's not just about the number. What would a world with trillionaires even look like? How would it affect the balance of power, the distribution of resources, the very structure of our society? These aren't just hypothetical questions.
We'll have to face them head on.
This isn't just about Elon Musk. It's about understanding how our world is changing and realizing that we all have a part to play in shaping the future.
We do.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored Elon Musk's $400 billion milestone and what it all means for the future.
It's been a great conversation.
We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking, maybe even a little inspiring.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till